So I went to Servite. I'm a Servite alumni. I got in plenty of trouble and did plenty of good things there. I was a water polo player. And now I have a 4-year-old daughter. So I'm speaking here, but I'm also trying to figure out if I'm going to send my daughter here. So if you guys are really good, maybe I'll send her here. No, my daughter's definitely going to go to a school like this. They asked me to speak to you. Do you guys know what you're here to hear about? What is it?
Mental health.
Teen mental health, and specifically, you got it, specifically decisions for mental health. Okay, kind of a weird topic, but when they asked me to speak on that, I got more into it as I kind of started thinking about it. Because right now, every one of us knows somebody who's been diagnosed with something, right? Everybody. A lot of people, we're in a really cool period of time where we address mental health. We are willing to talk about mental health. We're willing to go to therapists. We have a lot of people. There's over, I think it's 7,000 therapists just in my area alone. And these are all really good things, okay? But I think there's something we're kind of missing out on is the fact that before you have a problem, before you're diagnosed with anxiety, before you have major depression, before you become suicidal, which is kind of the ultimate fear for every adult on the face of the planet who has children, before all of that happens, there are a series of choices that people make in their life. Now, this is where I can get myself into just a little bit of trouble, right? Because I don't want anybody leaving here thinking that I am saying that you have mental health issues because you made certain choices. However, I'm also going to say that you can prevent certain mental health issues getting worse, or some of them being created by certain choices of your life, right? So it's like this scary thing. If I say it one way, I have people who kind of go, no, mental health is not a choice, it's something that just happens to you. Right? And then you've got people on the other side. If I say, hey, a lot of people suffering with mental health didn't make that choice, didn't need to do anything to cause it, they go, oh no, people can take care of themselves and they should have made better decisions, right? And so it's something in the middle, okay? A lot of mental health diagnoses are not your fault, parts of them, but some of it you are responsible for. Is that a hard thing to hear? Yeah? Does anybody think that's kind of a hard message to start out with right now? Okay. Yeah? Why is it hard for you to hear?
Oh, I'm
Just saying it is? Okay. I like you. You participate no matter what. This is awesome, and that's a good mental health decision. So, when you guys hear that somebody's struggling with mental health, what are some of the things that you hear about? What's going on with people who are struggling that you hear about? Since I know you'll participate. What's something you've heard somebody struggles with mental health wise?
family issues.
Family issues? So family issues will lead to mental health issues, right? Good. Do you guys control what goes on in your family? You don't? Nobody here controls what goes on in your family? You know that I work with a lot of parents. Know what they're saying? They're saying they don't control what goes on in their family. They're saying you guys are controlling everything and they have no control. So isn't it funny that we, in our bodies, in our experience, end up thinking and feeling as though we don't have any control, right? Our default is that it's everything that's happening to us. And so when you guys leave here today, I want you to have a better idea of what you actually control. One of the first rules to mental health, when you come into I'm a difficult therapist to work with because I talk a lot. I don't just sit there and I don't just say, you're right, you're right, you're right. I call you out and I point out the things that don't make sense to me, right? But when you come in as one of my clients, one of the first things I help you see is what you have control over. Okay? And so one of the first mental health decisions you guys can make is to focus more on the things that you control and less on the things that you don't control. Do you control your mom's rules or your dad's anger and how he responds to things that you do? Do you guys control that? No. What do you control? What are a few things you control in the family relationships at home? Come on, we got to get at least one person. What do you control? Sweatshirt, yes. Grace?
I guess how we respond to like what happens like to us.
How you respond to your parents who are acting unreasonably, right? Because I know when your parents get angry, they're totally unreasonable. They totally don't get it. And then you match what they're doing sometimes. And does it ever work? When you get really hot and heavy with your parents, do they go, oh my gosh, thank you. I didn't realize. No, they double down, don't they? And so one of the things I tell kids is, hey, look, I want you to be happier. I want your family to be happier. And one of the ways we're going to get there is if you can learn to get more of what you want more often from your parents, right? Because I hear what she just said often when teens come into me, right? The parents send you guys to me so I can fix you, and you guys go, I don't need to be fixed. My parents need to be fixed. And the parents think that you have something else going on, okay? Now, what else do we control in our lives? What do we have control over? What's something we have control over?
Like our relationships with other people.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you. What's your name? So right. And she brings up an issue that's actually, I put it at the top of my notes here. And the reason I put it at the top of my notes is because when I have a teen who comes in with severe depression, when I have a teen who comes in with a lot of anxiety, one of the first things they report to me is that their relationships aren't okay. It might be the relationships at home, it might be the relationships that they have here at school, it might be a combination of all of them. But most of the time, I'm not saying every time, but most of the time, there is a breakdown in relationships, okay? And what I hear a lot is, I feel alone. I don't feel like anybody hears me. I don't feel like anybody gets it. Can anybody relate to that? Or do you guys all feel, yeah, okay, I just saw a lot of heads. Okay. And you don't control the people who decide to like you and be in relationship with you, but you do control the people that you reach out to. You control how often and how you reach out to them. Okay? You can make decisions about how you take rejection. Anybody been rejected in here? Yeah? Anybody like rejection? Okay, you guys are going to think I'm crazy. When I was your age and I went to Servite, I did not like rejection. And man, I can remember, I can remember being a freshman and going, I did this really silly thing with my hair. I got, hydrogen peroxide. That was really cool at the time. I actually bleached my hair with hydrogen peroxide, went to Servite, got in trouble, didn't know I couldn't do that. Then I tried to be friends with this group of kids that was sitting down, and I was on the water polo team, and I was good, so I was pretty sure everybody was going to accept me. And you know what they did? They asked me why I was sitting there. I'm like, but I got the cool hair, like I must be cool because I just got in trouble and I can't sit here. Oh my gosh. And I chose to take that rejection with anger. Today, what I take rejection as is a learning opportunity, and I hit it with humor. Okay? I'm not going to get mad at you for rejecting me. I'm not going to get mad at you if you reject me. What I am going to do, the decision I've had to make for my mental health, because getting angry and kind of like becoming an angry person didn't work. Okay? I decided to become persistent. I decided not to take offense to it. And I've decided that that rejection is happening because of only two reasons. Does anybody know why rejection happens? One, because there's something wrong with me, or two, because there's something wrong with them. And a lot of times it's a combination of both, and we might just not click. And sometimes I can use rejection as an opportunity to do what? What might rejection be an opportunity for? Do you know? Anybody?
I do.
Yeah? What?
To grow from it and like
To grow.
learn.
Yep. Every time I get rejected, I can choose to totally take it personally, turn into myself, get angry, go gossip, not try to make other friends, or I can do what you just said. I can choose to grow. First thing I want to do when I get rejected or I fail is take a look at myself. Is there something I can grow? Not is there something wrong with me? You notice that I didn't say that? Is there a way I can grow from this? Now, that decision, that mentality might be the most important thing you hear today, because when people get stuck, when people develop mental health issues that are not just genetic and are not just coming from the inside, what's happening is they don't have any options. And you have options if you say, how can I grow from this? Not, is there something wrong with me, though? I don't want all of you leaving here today thinking that I'm telling you to take a look at what's wrong with you. And now I'm going to speak out of the other side of my mouth. We all sitting here have some stuff that's wrong with us, but that's okay. We all have opportunities to grow till the day we die. Does that make sense? Okay? And so when I think about healthy mental health decisions for my life, the first decision is one that's an attitude. In mental health, we're always focusing on three things. We are focusing on our attitudes, our behaviors, or our beliefs. Okay? And they all feed each other. Does that make sense? Right? Sometimes I need to change my attitudes so that my beliefs change, and then if both of those things have changed, I have a higher likelihood of changing my behaviors. Sometimes I got to know that I can't change my attitude, I can't change my belief, but my behavior needs to change because it doesn't work. And then all of a sudden down the road, I've got different attitudes and beliefs. But I never want to stay stuck. And so the most important mental health decision I can make is changing my attitude of taking accountability. Who's really good at taking accountability? I am amazing at taking accountability when I know that I'm wrong. When I know for sure I'm wrong. When I know it's like totally my fault and I made a mistake and it's obvious that I made a mistake, man, I can take accountability. Know when I'm not good at taking accountability and having an attitude of I'm going to take accountability is when it's not my fault. And what that looks like is not I am taking accountability and saying that I'm wrong. It's I'm looking at what I control. You see how I just did that whole full circle thing? Started talking about what do I have control over? When I look at what I have control over, I can take accountability in every situation, no matter if it's my fault or not. And that brings me to something that is really hard to teach people about mental health. I don't care if it's your parents' fault, it's your bully's fault. I don't care if it's because you were born a certain way. I don't care if it is your teacher's fault, your principal's fault, or everybody's fault that you are suffering and you are struggling with mental health. There's only one person who can help fix it, and that is you. You must take accountability even when it's not your fault. Hard message, right? Right? To be told, can you imagine coming into me for therapy and the first thing I tell you is I know it's not your fault, but you got to take accountability. It's all on you. Your parents got you in here, they're paying for it, now it's all on you. Pretty hard message, right? When you're super depressed and you can barely function, it's still your responsibility. Nobody can do the work for you. And so that attitude, if you can take that on now, if you can get that into your head, now your struggles that you are going to go through are going to be overcome in probably a quarter of the time. Okay? And so the next message that I have for mental health decisions is kind of a funny one. How many of you do the hard things first? Here's the thing. Because we are human, you know what we do? We seek out the easy way. Anybody love failing? No? Man, I was with you. I didn't like failing. You like failing?
Well, sometimes, but I learned that, once you feel it's just something you gotta learn from and grow. And,
like the other one.
sports.
Yeah.
You
gotta fail, right? We
to
all,
succeed.
yes, good. Failing is an important part of becoming happy, oddly enough. Okay? It's an important part of staying away from certain mental health issues that are growing at an astronomical rate in our society today. Okay? Now, I'm not saying go seek out impossible things that are going to make you feel like a failure, that I don't want you to set yourself up for failure in life. But another decision you can make in life is to do the hard work. Okay? A mentality of doing the hard work, actually, we know through studies, makes people happier. Now, I just had a 20-something-year-old come in and tell me, I don't understand why I'm so depressed. All I do is things that make me happy. Right? Now, this particular person listed off some things that I really don't want you guys doing, but they were in pursuit of just happiness. Is anybody on that train right now? You're being told, and right? As adults, we tell you, just seek out your passions. Just seek out your passions, right? Feel good. The odd thing is research shows that people who seek out difficult situations and overcome them, people who don't seek out instant gratification as much, only occasionally seek out instant gratification, people who are willing to take classes that they don't want to take just because they want to grow, people who are willing to do hobbies that might not be their passion but are difficult for them and overcome them. It's really weird, but people who seek out difficult things and fail often end up being people who are less likely to have anxiety and depression. Isn't that weird? And so in some respects, making the decision to do difficult things, making decisions to do work that is not fun, oddly enough, makes it so that you enjoy things more down the road. Now, there's another piece of science to this. People who seek out instant gratification constantly, not just through drugs and alcohol, but when you constantly seek out instant gratification and you don't have periods of time where you're just miserable, like bored out of your mind, you are unable to actually enjoy simple things very well. You're not as good at enjoying things. And so something that brings me a lot of joy can't bring you joy because you have done something to your brain through constant instant gratification that has changed the chemical makeup of your brain. Now, on a huge level, we know this through drug and alcohol and addiction, right? Everybody, have you guys heard about instant gratification? Yeah? And a lot of times people are talking about that, just in terms of drugs and alcohol. Now, the next kind of steps in decision making for a good mental health, for being happy, right? Because ultimately that's what I want you to do. If being happy, if making horrible decisions and finding horrible relationships helped you be happy, I'd say, hey, go do it. But it doesn't result in happiness. It results in more mental health issues. And so the next decision is leading a somewhat, I'm not going to say a completely disciplined life, but a somewhat disciplined life. You have to have areas that you are disciplined in. Does everybody understand what that means? Discipline to me is being regimented. It's doing things consistently and thoughtfully. Okay? It's consistently doing things that are maybe difficult for you some days, right? So being disciplined, for instance, in fitness means that you go to the gym even when you don't want to. The discipline is I go Monday through Friday. So my disciplined workout regimen for me right now is every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday I lift weights and I run. I hate running. I get no enjoyment out of running. I will never get enjoyment out of running, but I know that it's increasing my happiness in life. Now, Tuesdays and Thursdays, those are my surf days. Man, I could be out there for 10 hours if I could. But I still, you see, I enjoy that. That doesn't feel like it takes as much discipline as the running, but I have both in my schedule as a discipline, as a constant thing that I do even when I don't want to. And I want you guys to hear that message. We create discipline by creating a schedule of things that we sometimes want to do, sometimes don't want to do, but we do it regardless of wanting to do it because we made a decision at some point that it was the healthy and right thing to do. Okay, have you guys ever woke up and been like, I don't want to go to school? Every day. Oh, guys, we got to make this more fun for them. Every day? Oh no. You don't always want to go to school, but sometimes, have you ever noticed that sometimes, especially here at Rosary, you get up, you go to school, and it's actually not that bad, and then you go, oh man, I'm actually glad I came. Especially like that day that you came and you heard that amazing speaker at 12:15. Remember that day? That was amazing. But sometimes you get up and you really are, you feel motivated. You know that feeling of motivation? It's awesome, right? Like everybody comes to me, they're like, hey, how can I get motivated? I say, I'm not going to help you get motivated. There's no magic for that. I don't know when you're going to get motivated, because what's going to help you be happy is doing the things you know you should do, whether you're motivated or not. And we know, again, through research, that people who don't continuously seek out the feeling of motivation to do things, but seek out discipline and regiment and make a decision to just do things consistently, are happier. They are less likely to become depressed. They're less likely to have really anxious moments. By the way, there's a difference between feeling anxious and having an anxiety disorder, but that's a whole discussion that I'd love to have with you guys someday. That's another thing. Oddly enough, we know that facing anxiety on a consistent basis in your life makes it less likely that you have develop true mental health disorders. Isn't that weird? But what's the world telling you to do with anxiety right now? What do you guys see on social media? What do all the really cool memes tell you to completely avoid?
Drugs.
That's good. Please keep avoiding that. But also anxiety. You're not supposed to feel anxiety. You guys have this whole message that I never heard that is, don't feel anxiety. Now, oddly enough, I'm going to tell you to face situations that make you feel anxious, like when somebody calls on you, not today, but someday. I want you to get up and say the wrong thing and totally make a fool out of yourself, because the more you make a fool out of yourself, the more you fail, the more you face these hard situations, the more likely you are to not become depressed and not develop an anxiety disorder. An anxiety disorder comes from two things. One, the environment and experience of the person. Number two, sometimes, very rarely, it is something that people like to say a chemical imbalance. It's not a chemical imbalance. That's never actually been proven. But it comes from their development. Both can be overcome. One of those can be prevented, though. You cannot prevent an anxiety disorder that was genetically predisposed because of a certain developmental progress. Okay? But you know what you can do is you can force yourself on a daily basis to be anxious. Isn't that weird? Can you believe I'm a therapist telling you to find anxiety? Go and get anxious more often. Go and fail more often. Go and find reasons to be totally uncomfortable, because people who are consistently uncomfortable in a healthy way, people who are anxious constantly in a healthy way, and people who fail more often don't end up in my office. But the world's telling you, avoid anything that makes you anxious. Your parents are making sure that they actually get angry at you guys for failing. Can't tell you how many parents I've counseled to let their child fail and love them through the failure. Right? Man, I'm teaching my daughter to ride a bike, and my parents were there when I was teaching her. I didn't want them to see me make her cry, but I totally let her fail the other day. Like, I've got this handlebar so she doesn't get hurt, and I told her she's not going to get hurt, and I'm like, oh, she's going to hate me forever until she's a teenager. And I let go, and she failed miserably. I mean, she cried, she hated me, she failed miserably. In fact, I didn't think I could get her on the bike again. What do you think she wants to do whenever she can now?
Don't do it.
She wants to get on the bike. Yeah, she's only 4 years old, but you know what? I'm going to make sure that she fails and is uncomfortable and is consistently loved through the failure and feeling uncomfortable. And I tell people, a lot of people ask how I started. I own a pretty successful teen mental health center. And I have people sometimes come in and interview me and ask me, well, how did I get there? And what should they do? And, and I tell them, go take these classes, go to this college, go to Rosary First, stuff like that. But what I tell them is I failed more than almost anybody I know. I have had more failures, I've had more rejection than almost anybody I know. You can make me feel really uncomfortable. You can make me feel embarrassed. But what you can't do is push me into developing a mental health issue. What you can't do is force me to give up. What you're not going to do is get in the way of my success, because success is often a series of failures. Now, I have to put a disclaimer because, girls, I am not telling you to go out and tell all your teachers you're not studying anymore because I want you to fail tests. I didn't say fail tests, okay? We fail by facing things that are really difficult to face, and even if we try our hardest, we might fail. Any thoughts? Any questions from any of the staff or the students here? Yes.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I know you're saying that these things can be hard, but on the other side, I think it can be empowering too.
Yeah, and that's the point.
That it's,
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's my hope, right? Is it's really hard, but it's only really hard when you're not used to doing it, right? I never thought I'd say this in life. Failing for me is really easy. It doesn't even cause me sleep anymore. I used to, if I failed at something, I'd be up all night. Not anymore. And I sleep soundly. I know that I have figured out so many things. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay, and I hope to pass that on to my daughter. Another piece to this. So this is, I just addressed through what I discussed with you guys, attitude and belief. Does that make sense? And I spent most of our time today talking about addressing attitude and belief because it sets you up for behaviors that I think are really important. Okay? I developed this thing called the 6 pillars. And I use it as a reference in working with people. And it helps you focus on the things that you control. The 6 pillars are mental health, relationships. Will you help me remember relationships? I want to come to that one first. Physical health, spirituality, career/education, and hobbies. Okay? These are the 6 pillars of our life that we should be putting a balance, not balance in time, not equal time, but a healthy balance of time, effort, and energy into. Okay? And so the 6 pillars again are mental health, relationships, physical health, spirituality, career/education, and hobbies. Now, which one do I know for a fact you guys are putting time into?
Education.
Education, because you're here. You're here at school. Congratulations. You didn't ditch. You're making it. You're putting, I think, the time, effort, and energy into it. You might need to work on math or improve your English grade, but I know at least you're showing up and putting the time, the effort, and the energy into. Are there any of these that you guys struggle to put time, effort, and energy into?
Hobby.
Hobbies. Okay. Once you become old like me, you start neglecting hobbies because making a career becomes more important. Because making sure you're taking care of your kids becomes all of your focus, and then you've got to clean the house because you don't want to live in a mess, and that helps you work. And right, and so all these things, and hobbies is often one of the first things. I hear parents say this, you guys. They'll tell me that their hobbies are raising you. That's not a hobby. Okay? A hobby is something you can do with people. A hobby is something you can do alone. There are different types of hobbies. Okay? For mental health, who thinks it's important to have hobbies for mental health? Okay. Putting the time, the effort, and the energy into hobbies is going to be really important. And right now it might be easy for you guys, but as you get older, it becomes more difficult. Now, even with teens, what I've noticed is some teens will tell me, I don't know what I like. I don't know, I don't have a passion for anything. I don't care if you have a passion. Just do something, and then if it's terrible, you can try something else. But we need two types. We need to be putting time and energy into two types of hobbies in our life. Those that we can do alone for those times that we need to be alone and distracted, and those that connect us to other people. And as you become older, both become even more important because it's hard to maintain friendships in the relationship category, pillar. Right? And so all the pillars actually feed each other. And so it's about setting aside time for hobbies. It becomes really important. And not letting anybody tell you that any of these pillars, even hobbies, is not important. Okay? Now, we talked about relationships a little bit earlier, right? And remind me what you said. Do you remember what you said?
I think you asked me something else.
Okay. What you said was we control the relationships that we're in. Okay? Now, that's true to some extent. Some of your people that are in your life, you're going to have a relationship with them because you have to, because they're your teacher, or because you're in that group for study, or they're on your team. But we make decisions about how much effort we put in. We make decisions about how we treat them. We make a poignant decision about who to bring close and how. And so relationships, how we behave in relationships, plays a huge role in mental health. Who we choose, especially romantically, to be in relationship plays a huge role. Now there's a few things that every parent wants you students to know. If you're going to be in a romantic relationship, don't let it overtake your friendships. We don't want you to do anything that you're really going to regret intimately. Right? And I know you've heard all of those things. I'm going to tell you something that's really important. Okay? Does anybody think they don't know how to behave well in a healthy relationship? I mean, you pretty much know, right? You know how to treat people kindly. You know, not to do the bad things, and you kind of know. But I'm going to tell you this: there's going to be this thing. You're going to know what to do in a relationship, but your mind's going to tell you not to do it often. Okay, and I think, especially as a teen, sometimes you have to make decisions about how to behave or whether to be in a relationship outside of that actual relationship, and then you have to do this thing where you stick to the plan. And that's going to sound kind of wild, but we should be talking about writing down, thinking about what our relationships, what our interactions are going to look like, and if we should actually be friends with somebody or be in a romantic relationship with somebody. And if that is, how it looks. And this is going to sound really kind of nerdy, but I would say write your plan down. And stick to what you write down, not your feelings, fears, and automatic thoughts that are happening while you're engaging in that relationship. Does that make sense? And that decision to behave in a relationship according to plan, it's really hard. You're going to fail at it time and time again. But if you have that attitude, your behaviors in the relationship are going to shift to a healthier you. And again, does anybody remember what I said in the beginning? I said that so many, if not a majority of the teens that come in, the trigger for them coming in to see me was a romantic relationship gone bad. I don't know that this is a true statistic, but I like as a whole in mental health, but in my practice, which were a pretty significant practice, I would say 50% of every suicide that came in at some point within the first session tells me about a romance that went awry. That's half. That's how important your behavior in relationships is. The physical health. Whew. That one becomes kind of funny, right? What do we think of when we think of physical health? Exercise. Everybody brings up exercise, which is important. That's a big piece. Okay? But there's a few parts to it. It's exercise. It's taking care of the doctor stuff. Okay? And then it's the nutrition. Now, my decisions about what to eat, I want to focus on just for a moment, because I think that all three of those parts are important for this one. But what you eat is, oddly enough, more and more science is showing how important that is. And usually it's not like the trends, it's just the normal stuff, right? Like eat your veggies, eat a few less fruit than veggies, but eat your fruit, eat your meat, eat your fats, and eat some carbs. Isn't that weird? There's no real magic to it. But a balance of all those things is wildly effective, and sometimes more effective than medications. When I'm in my practice, when I'm assessing somebody, one of the first things I ask them is, what are you doing with yourself all day long? What are you eating? And what are you doing when you have medical issues? Because that tells me a lot. I want to get that to a baseline before I diagnose you and before I decide on a treatment for you. It's mind-blowing, the decision to do things that maybe you don't want to do. Discipline in diet can vastly change mental health. Now, is it going to fix mental health, do you think? No. Okay? I'm not saying that if you eat healthy and you exercise, your mental health issues are going to go away. But we want to chip away at preventing mental health issues, and if you have a mental health issue, we have to chip away. We have to address a whole bunch of different things so that you can be healthy, stay healthy, or become healthy. And one of those things you can do is address your physical health, the exercise. Now the exercise becomes important because of a whole bunch of hormonal things that go on when you exercise. And then there's another thing about exercise that really helps and is huge in mental health. Does anybody know what that is? Yeah.
Sleep.
Sleep's important. That's huge for mental health. That's definitely a part of the physical health. I want everybody to look behind me. What do you see? Out the window. What do you see? What's that? Sun! Do you know that that thing right there that's making it so that we can see is one of the most important pieces to mental health? And when you just stay inside, this is what's magical. I have literally had teens come in, have no sun. We're talking like limited exposure to sun because they stay in their room, they go to class, they wear long sleeves. And I have said, hey, I need you to just go outside for an hour every day. I don't care if you go and lay in the grass and pout. I've never had anybody come back and go, I feel worse because I was in the sun and outside. Now, oddly enough, that decision, it's not going to fix it, right? If you're severely depressed, you're not going to go outside and go, oh, never mind, I'm not depressed anymore. But it's going to be a chipping away at it. It's going to be a piece of the puzzle. And it's something that you, what? Control. In making mental health decisions, like I said earlier, we want to focus on the things that we control because we don't control the things that we don't control. We can't do anything about them. Okay? Now, we've got physical health, we've got mental health. Mental health is seeking help out when you need it. Okay? Whether it's coming to somebody like me, or it is reading a book, or listening to a podcast, right? Anything, we kind of know what addressing mental health is. And I don't care if you have mental health issues. Every one of us should be putting time, effort, and energy into understanding mental health, into addressing our own mental health. That mental health pillar isn't necessarily you have a problem, so you put time, effort, and energy into it. It's we should all be putting time, effort, and energy into our mental health. Okay? Now, the spirituality piece to that. Does anybody know why I left that towards the end to talk about? Because it's like the one that people want to debate the most. Here's the thing, okay? Spirituality is huge. It's not just about believing in God, and it's not just about understanding the Bible. It's putting time, effort, and energy in making that choice and understanding it. You guys are in the beginning of your spiritual journey. Okay? Now, what happens is a lot of people, not just teens, will say, oh, spirituality is not something I need. I'm not going to put time, effort, and energy into it. And I don't like what my teachers and my parents said about spirituality, so I just reject it completely. I don't care where you are on your journey. I want you putting the time, the effort, and the energy into understanding it, studying it, learning about it. There's this thing called purpose. Okay. Has anybody ever heard that word? I'm ending on that because in your spiritual journey, in your relationships, in your hobbies, in your thinking about who you want to be, and thinking about what you want to do for a career while you're getting educated, what's going to happen is you're going to find many different purposes. Sometimes your purpose today might be to help somebody else. Okay? And spirituality is something that guides that question of purpose in a way that cannot be replicated. And you're wrestling with that spirituality. You're being open to hearing what people are trying to teach you. You're accepting that you don't have all the answers, but your connectedness to other people, your connectedness to God, becomes a big part of honing in your purpose that you have each day. Does that make sense? And you finding that purpose is going to be one of the most important decisions you make for your mental health. Okay, so I appreciate you guys. Thank you for hearing me out. Okay.